Okay, so today we went over the blueprint learning targets for our first test on Monday, excuse me, our first summative test. As you can see, these are the learning targets I've posted throughout the last few weeks and that you will be tested on. The learning target is here. The number of problems will be on the test is there, and the total points that it will be worth. So you can see that it says students can identify independent and dependent variables. There'll be one question on that, and it'll be worth 5 points. Same thing for the next one. Students know what axis an independent and dependent variable is found on. And I spelled variable wrong. Okay, and so we're going to go through each one of these learning targets. And what I want you to do, and I'll show you how to do this, is write a test question for each learning target. Your test questions need to be either true or false or multiple choice or fill in the blank. So just for an example, well, I'll do the first couple learning targets and then you're going to do the last ones. So for the first one, it says, I can identify independent and dependent variables. So I'm going to get out a sheet of paper. For this question, I might say, in an airplane traveling at 1,800 feet per minute, the height is the dependent variable, true or false. So I took the learning target here. My learning target was students I can identify independent and dependent variables. Then I made a test question. By putting in this question, which we had in class, students have to identify for this question that the feet and the minutes are the two variables, feet being distance, minute being time. And I want to know if they know which one is dependent or independent. So I said the height is a dependent variable, and that is actually true. And time would be the dependent variable. So by making this into a question, if they say true, they understand first that this is the variable, and then they understand height is the dependent. Okay, so that would be an example of a test question for the first one. The second one, I might put students know what the independent and dependent variable is found on which axis, excuse me. So for this test question, I might say the independent variable is found on the y-axis, true or false. So again, it's a 50-50 chance. It's either on the x or the y. So you also have 50-50 chance of answering it right, which is why I used a true or false problem. So hopefully you know that this one's false. But again, that's an example of what I want you to do with some of these targets. The next one says students can write equations from written expressions. Okay, so that sort of question might look like this. I might create a written expression. The product of 2 and a number is 4 is more than 4. And I might make this a multiple choice question. I might say 4x, or c in this case, plus 2. B, I might say 4c, excuse me, 2c plus 4. For c, I might say make this page a little bit bigger here. There we go. For C, I might say, come on. So I went through and I made 2 plus C plus 4, because maybe the student doesn't know what product, and you know what product is. And then I put 2 divided by C plus 4, because maybe they don't understand that product's multiplying, not dividing. So the idea behind making this type of question is writing a written expression and getting 4 answers. And you want to make sure that one of your answers is not obvious. You want to think about how somebody might mistakenly write an answer. So the product of 2 and a number, so we know that's 2C is more than 4. That should be answer B. But I put in a couple tricky ones to make sure that the student really understands what the word product means and what variable needs to be put in there. Okay, so that's an example of how I could write. Students can write written equations from written expressions. You'll have 2 questions on that with a total of 10. The next one, if we look at that one, I might say, I want to know if students can understand parentheses in written expressions. So I might go ahead and do another multiple choice question for this one. So hopefully we know that parentheses, you need answer words. So I might say the result of, I don't know, 6 plus a number divided by 2. Okay, so again, I might just go with what they probably will write would be 6 and a number, 6 plus a number, and then divided by 2. Then I might put one with parentheses, 6 plus, 6 plus x, and then divide sign 2. And then I might put, for C, I might put, I don't know, I could switch that around a little bit and maybe put 2 plus x divided by 6, just write it backwards, and then do the same thing with parentheses, 2 plus x divided by 6. So the idea behind you making up these questions is, first you have to think about what kind of question belongs in that learning target. Then you have to think about the answer and what some possible misconceptions would be. So if I were to give this problem to you on your test and you picked A, I would know that you are still misunderstanding the parentheses here, because it says the result of 6 plus a number, which means the answer of 6 plus a number divided by 2. This one just says 6 plus x divided by 2. So the only thing that's being divided by 2 is x, and this one's the whole answer divided by 2. So you want to put in answers that are not obviously wrong. You want to put in answers that could be right, and to really understand if the student gets that type of problem. So you're going to go through and do a question for the rest. So you're going to do a question for these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the last 6 ones. So the first one says students can find the area and rectangles when the area of squares and rectangles when variables are used as a length. So obviously you're going to want to draw a figure on that, put some variables in there, and ask them to find the area. And the same thing for below, but with perimeter. Make up a question where the student has to identify a term, coefficient, or constant. Make up an example of a real life example of slope, and then a not real life example of slope. So that's the rest of your homework here, is to come up with test questions. Again, you can make a multiple choice, true and false, or you could actually do fill in the blank too if you want. And so we want 6 test questions that you made up on these last 6 learning targets. And then when you get to class, we're going to share those and do some practicing with our peers. Now make sure that you're making good test questions, because Grievous wants you to. Grievous would not be happy if you did not come in with some challenging test questions. Don't be subjected to Grievous.